So, actually, the talk tonight would be really on psychology. I'm involved in many years in developing psychology according to Jewish and spiritual principles. Usually, psychology does not know to incorporate all the knowledge accumulated so far, which really is fantastic knowledge about the main psyche, to incorporate that with spirituality. Somehow it looks totally detached. And we worked for many years to build proper theories, and we wrote one book and a few others are on the way. Now, what I want to present to you and analyze with you is a very important equation which I developed. You see, I'm a scientist, so even though dealing with psychology, I work with a scientific way of thinking. And actually, this equation which I want to present to you is trying to analyze the willpower. The willpower is a very, very important concept. This to bring people to be Maimonides, to be a great sportsman, to be Einstein, or to be a criminal, or to be whatever it is. The willpower is really the engine which is behind us. And somehow, the driver all the time is just dealing with the road. He never looks back to take care or to see where the engine comes from. Was it taken care properly? Are there some damages, flows? He just looks ahead. He doesn't look at his back. Who made this engine for me? My parents, the surrounding, education, culture. Can I, get involved and change my own machine? You just use the machine as is. I said, yeah, but maybe I could get a much better machine. See? So we are, before going to a big race into life, to see maybe we can improve the car as well. So for that we have to understand really how the willpower is built, what it's composed of, and can we interfere in our own willpower? It's a very strange concept. I'm using my willpower to interfere in my willpower. Understand? It's a very, very interesting concept. This by itself, it's a very interesting question from cybernetics. Can a machine repair itself? To a certain extent we know it is, but only to a certain extent. But human being can repair everything. It's in cybernetics we know that, let's say, there is a program. So there is an inner program, the soft program, but there is an outer program. The outer program, the external program, can repair the inside one, the inner one, but it cannot repair the external one, right? There is one layer that you cannot. This is the one which is the external one. But we can repair everything. We can get involved in any part of our way of thinking, the way we are composed, the way we are thinking. This is very strange, very, very strange from the point of view of cybernetics and machines. We are very strange machines, very, very strange machines. And actually, I think it's next to impossible to explain this machine based only on materialistic concepts. But this is another issue which we're not going to deal now. So we now try to really to use our willpower to understand our willpower and to interfere in our willpower. You understand? This cycle. So actually, we'd start to analyze what is behind, what are the factors behind willpower, and we will build them one at a time until we'll get the full equation. Okay? So it's a process, not okay. Now, we will build these equations not in the form of components that we can calculate, but in terms of relationship between components. Namely, this is proportional to that, this is reciprocal to that. You see, this is divided by that, so we can see the relationship between the components. And we can learn a lot because of the understanding of the relationship, even though we're not going to put numbers. All right? So equations can teach us a lot about the symmetry and relationship between the components, even though we cannot put numbers. Now, the willpower would be proportional to the difference between the desired and the existing. Namely, if there is a big discrepancy between what is desired and what exists, then it would drive me to want it. The bigger the discrepancy, the bigger my willpower. Now this desired is not such a simple thing. How we decide on things that are desired? And how do we conceive what exists? Let's take, for example, think about wisdom, all right? Now, what exists? Am I wise? Well, fair enough. Yeah, not bad. It could be better. Well, fair enough. Desired? Well, it's not bad to be desired, to be wise, but I don't think one should put too much into that. You know, I have heard a lot of wise people don't make good money. I mean, you should be more practical. You see, I can very easily monitor the things that the desired is not so wide, and the existing, you know, I quite blow it and inflate it so that I feel, you know, wise enough. So you see, the difference and discrepancy is small, and you see I'm going to invest very little along this direction. You can see, right? So actually, the first criteria would be really the difference between the desired and the existing. Now, the desired is to be multiplied by the meaning that we give to that. Because the higher the meaning, the discrepancy will be bigger. So you can see that I can interfere now in my willpower through the concept of meaning. And we know that meaning is something that I control. I can learn, I can decide. There's a spiritual decision that I can give meaning to different things. Now, regarding the existing one, I would multiply it, even though it's not a simple multiplication, it's more like a functional. But for simplicity, I'll multiply it by some objectivity factor. Okay? You can look at yourself objectively or distort the picture. All right? So I put it like some multiplication, but it's more a function. All right? But definitely I can interfere in the picture of what is existing by some objectivity factor. So you can see a very simple thing, that now my willpower is based, is proportional to the difference between the desired and the existing, and I can interfere in both areas. Some of us do it consciously, but most of us do it unconsciously. So our willpower is channeled towards certain things, certain areas, according to some meanings and to some objectivity factors that were incorporated in us, not by us, but people that not necessarily we trust, by TV, by society, by our parents, by many, many things that we never checked it. That's what I mean, the driver didn't check the engine, right? Didn't check the car. And he's driving by this car, he's driving by these forces while never checking these forces. Okay, this would be the first factor, the difference between the desired and the existing. Because you see I have a small blackboard, so we'll run many parts and we'll compose it later on one by one. The second factor would be the difficulties. So if here we talk about difference between desired and existing, now I divide it by the difficulties. You see now what I mean, that when I build the equation, not necessarily building numbers, but the relationship. Now difficulties would be in a opposite proportion, right? So namely that the bigger the difficulties, the lower, the weaker would be the willpower. Let's say, I'm here, and, there are many directions, and I would like to know why a certain person decide along this, and the other one decide along this. I want to analyze, because I want to analyze myself. I want to know who motivates me, right? So I want to know all the factors. Now we understand that one of the factors is the difficulties. And we can understand, once I expect the difficulties along here are very big, and here are smaller, naturally I would prefer to go to the weaker, to where the difficulties are lower. Even in physics we know such a thing. If you know just if you have a particle, then you can move to many directions. We can expect and predict to which area would go along to the difficulties according to gradient of potential energy. We can predict kind of things. So you are like just a particle where I can predict where would you move. All right. So difficulties definitely would be opposite, proportional to reciprocal proportional to the willpower. This is a very interesting concept about difficulties. By the way,